Okay, the Port of Siuslaw Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 20th, 2013 is called to order at 7 o'clock. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of January 23rd.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Good job, Dina.
Thank you.
The
So did you want to see? We have Jay Nefsey here to, as remarks.
okay.
I don't know what the formality is. You stand and,
You can come,
you
sit
sit
or
down.
stand
Stand.
or whichever, just
Terrific, thank
approach
you.
and introduce yourself.
hi.
Soft shoe, tap.
Soft shoe,
we're
taxi.
good.
First off, my name is Jay Nefsey, and I'm a citizen here of the city of Florence, and been coming to your meetings. I'm interested in proceedings. And I've got a couple of things to say. First, I want to compliment the board. You have gone through quite a extensive rebuilding of the port, and it's just amazing to see that things getting done, and that you've succeeded in getting somewhere where a lot of people would not have. It's a major project, and my compliments to the board for getting it done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the second thing is, I noticed that you're going to have number 5 on your agenda is to appoint a commissioner. Do I have it right?
Mm-hmm.
For the to finish the end of the term that's coming up, and it's already been announced in the newspapers that there's going to be an election, and I know of people who are interested in the positions and would like to run, and I think it would be a disservice to the community to after you've already announced someone, to appoint someone internally. I would understand.
They have to run at that election.
They would have to turn around and rerun.
Right, but even for the duration from the time from here until it's only 2 months until the next until the election, it would be it would give whoever is that takes that position would give them quite an advantage to an incumbency.
I don't know that it really does.
Yeah, one of the reasons we do it, when do we take office? July?
Yeah.
So it actually isn't in May, it's in July. And that just sort of serves as the quorum established, the tiebreaker,
Fifth
if you will.
person.
So we have 5 instead of 4.
Well, you've already announced that there's going to be an election, and I think the new board should be able to, that gets elected in May, should be able to make properly decisions without having to deal with an appointee. And since you've got it's a major election coming up for this board, it's going to be and as I say, I think there are people who are going to want to put their hat in the ring and try to run for it, and it should be in open positions. That's what I have to say.
So,
Thank you.
just so I understand, are you recommending that we don't appoint somebody?
Yes.
And
So
operate
there's only-
as a board of 4?
Well, for 2 months. I mean, you've only got
Not 2 months.
Well, no,
2
you
months.
got the rest
July.
of the year.
It's the rest of the year,
Yeah.
From now until July.
The new board doesn't come in until July?
Right. They're elected, but they don't take office. until
Customarily, working with boards, we do appoint somebody, even if it's,
And then the requirement is then they have to run for election
For
if
their
they want to
position.
stay on.
Right.
Now, Bob is doing that, and he doesn't want to run,
Mm-hmm.
so he graciously agreed, because he had been on the board before, and so he agreed to fill a position that was vacant.
So and to be clear, so the people who do get elected in May don't even get sworn in until July?
That's
correct.
That's
Well,
correct.
There is an exception, if I may. The board has the prerogative of swearing in whoever is elected on the 21st. That particular meeting, we could swear those particular people in that were elected to the vacant position. And they would serve to that July date, and then
Yeah,
they would
that's
be
all.
re-sworn in again. So,
That's an alternative.
yeah.
Oh, I see. I'll say right now, after duress and arm twisting, I will rerun again for my position.
After duress, okay.
That's all right, it's a good ringtone.
But I just, I feel that we do have alternatives, and Mr. Forsyth, I know this discussion is gonna come up later. Are there any major pending issues that you are aware of that will require a five-member board to really break a tie or examine a particular issue in the next 3 months?
No, we don't have anything pending that's gonna do it, I think.
I still, I'm always feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, we've just done it that way. I mean, when we've had an opening, we fill it, and then they're required by law to run at the next or step down, whichever they do. They have the option.
Well, when we get to that item, we'll probably have a good discussion.
Okay, we can do it then.
Yeah.
Thank you for your letting me speak. I appreciate it. And you do understand my concerns, though, for the public. This is a, you know, the public here, I think, deserves to have these positions totally open without any prejudice. Thank you.
Don't assume that there's prejudice.
I didn't say prejudice against
Mention-
you.
No, don't assume that there's
Well, wait a minute, now,
There's prejudice
I
against me,
differ.
that's fine.
I differ with that.
But don't assume that there's prejudice,
Me
because
and him.
that's the whole idea of having the five, is to keep it, to keep the
Non-prejudicial.
decisions non-prejudicial. That's the key factor.
And I also defer to whatever the board would, wants to do, because the board needs to do business that may be
Yeah,
their
yeah.
decision to make. But as a member of the public, I'm just expressing my opinion.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else care to speak? Okay, no others. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the financials.
Well,
And we have the,
Good timing. Look
Good
who
time.
Mr. Financial just
Look
walked
who
in the
walked in the
door.
door.
You can just keep walking over here.
Daddy Warbucks, have a seat.
He knew there was a check waiting.
Take my check and leave.
I may be a little incoherent because I've been driving for an hour, but has everybody had a chance to,
Go through that binder? No.
well, actually, this is what you paid for.
Yeah.
It is very thick. Well, I think you've got the 115 letter that addresses internal control. And there's a 114 letter that is addressed to you. And basically all I had to say was I made a prior period adjustment for Hercules. And so we caught up the last 2 years, and I think we have an accurate unearned revenue amount and receivable. So I think that's coming on pretty well. Have you worked that out?
Yeah, I've done the journal entries. There's still some housekeeping that needs to be done to the financials, as far as some of the entries that I've made up until this point over the last couple of years that need to be probably at the end of the year reversed out, just adjusted out. So you will see on your balance sheet a new Hercules account and an old. The old is what I'm referring to.
The 60,000?
Well, I have to, does that say old or new? I'm not looking at it right now.
Oh, okay, I see where you're talking. You're talking 1220 new for 3,800 and old 4,300.
Right. So everything that says Hercules on that, with the exception of the old account, is correct.
What about the 60,000 that's in
Those-
liabilities?
That is the
Unearned.
amount of reservations that have been prepaid for future stays, for people who are coming in this summer or next summer. They've already paid. Because you have to pay in full online when you make your reservation.
So it's really just a budget item, really. It's
Well,
not-
it's an amount that,
Is the money there?
it's money you
Yeah.
collected, it's in your account.
We have it or Hercules has it?
We
We
have most of
Most
it.
of it.
Okay.
Okay, this is another issue. The way it had worked before, payments that went through the office in the front went directly into your checking account. What came from Hercules would be accumulated, batched, and then transmitted. And we found out they were a little tardy in making some of the payments, so when I talked with the Hercules guy, he said, well, you know, you can do an alternative payment system. You can have it go directly into your checking account, so that's what
I'm
Dina
in
is
the
exploring
process of
right now.
doing that, switching that
Really?
over.
Yes, isn't that nice?
They're not gonna float the money and make money off of it? How strange.
No, I suspect that's what happened. They got behind about 5,000 in December. And after I called, I think they paid 2,000 or 3,000.
Mhm. There's still 2,600 outstanding.
They're still a little bit out.
But I mean, a year ago you came to us, made this recommendation, and we've now tried to change the books and the system,
Yeah.
and the accrual system, and how we're keeping track of the money. Are you feeling good that we're on the right track?
I feel good.
Where we're going?
I think the Hercules system is a very good one for taking in the reservations, for calculating the unearned revenue, for calculating the receivables. It is not terribly user-friendly. I think Dina will tell you that. You get the reports,
I've already told you that.
and I look at them, and I say, debits don't equal credits. I'm gonna move that one over. Okay, then debits equal credits. Then I gotta figure out what it means.
Let me see.
And you get 3 basic reports. You get a receivables report, and that tells you what the receivables are. And actually done a very good job of minimizing those. There's only about 2,500 that are receivable for campsites, mortgage, storage, you know, so that's good. Then you get an unearned revenue report, and that's the unearned revenue. Then you get what they call a folio distribution report, and that has the accrual basis revenue and the payments, and then it has something called an accounts receivable again, but that's not an accounts receivable. That's the net of the increment of unearned revenue and accounts receivable for the period of the distribution.
Of the time they're holding the
So it was
money.
really complicated. I mean, I had to fool around with it to try to figure out, okay, that's how they get the numbers.
What's the bottom line? How much percentage do they get?
Not much. Would we figure 18% of the volume is what they're processing?
18%?
No, that's not what they get. though.
No,
That's
he's
not-
they don't
talking
talk
Oh,
about how
you
much
mean-
money do they
What's their
receive?
percentage do they get on the dollar for
Fees.
Oh,
processing?
they have a small transaction fee
There's
for
monthly
every,
fees, transaction fees,
yeah,
and then there's
like
a
a
percentage,
couple of
right?
dollars per transaction. And then there's a monthly subscription fee
Mm-hmm.
that, for $110 a month.
Yeah, and, I mean, if you hired someone in the office to do this, I think you'd end up paying a
Oh,
lot
yes.
more. I mean, you would have to have at least a
That's a good
three-quarter
comment.
person.
That's true if you hired a person to do it, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's software that you can use today that is so much more reasonable. And
Yeah,
there's
but the
software.
person runs the software, and
Well,
this is an issue.
and I'm not gonna open this Pandora's box, I'm on my way out, but I will say that I'll be happy to talk to you. I'm in the process of redoing my entire business website, and I am finding out that what was too expensive to do as early as 3 years ago is very affordable now, and completely secure, and you take out the middleman. And I mean, I'm taking out the whole administrative position by automating it through electronic capabilities. So there are opportunities that are there, and I can talk to you when I get it in place. I can share with you. But I found things that I could never do as early as 3 years ago that we can do now. Now, I don't know exactly about the
Well, I
reservation
mean,
concept and the money, but
Going
secure
forward, it's
receiving
all
of
up
funds.
for discussion. I mean, that's really a management decision, but what I'm saying is that having examined the Hercules system in some detail, it is fundamentally sound. It does get you your reservations. It does do proper accrual basis
Right.
accounting. It does provide you with the means of reconciling the payments with your cash deposits. And,
And they secure the transfer of funds, which is
Yeah.
the key factor.
and I think it's gonna be even better when we get a direct deposit into the port's checking account. And we may avoid some fees that way, wouldn't we? Don't they charge something for every?
Well, we wouldn't have to pay
Batch
their
transfer.
transaction. I don't know. I have to still find that out.
We'll have to see.
But you're paying 110 months for the feature of using their software and their service.
Mhm.
That's the minimum, no matter what the points are on the dollars.
How often would they direct deposit, like a monthly thing?
Well, they do it about twice a week normally, when things are really going, when lots of reservations are being made. Right now, it's 3 or 4 times a month in the off season.
Bill?
Mr. Trotter, I'd like to thank you for the professional job that you've done on the audit,
Thank you.
and I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
On your letter of opinion, you state that the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the final financial position of the port as of June 30th, 2012. Is that the same thing as giving us a clean audit? Because usually they use the word clean.
Yeah, that's a clean audit.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
An
And then-
accountant weasel words, yes, it's a clean audit.
Okay, just to make sure, because present fairly was something that's different than what I've heard before.
Oh, no, that's the holy language,
Okay.
because it's not exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, there may be a swing of a little bit, and we
Right.
do a materiality analysis to see, how much swing we do have until it becomes not fairly.
Like an analysis of variance?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be certain, and also for the viewers at home, it appears that the Port of Siuslaw, as of June 30th, has total net assets of $5,124,509. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
And it seems that we brought in $17,950 more than we spent last year.
That would be reasonable. On an accrual basis, yes.
Excellent. So we are getting into the black,
Getting into the line.
which is really good news. So I just wanted the people out there in TV land to see that. Also, as we are switching from cash to accrual, do you anticipate the net worth of the district to go up as a result of some of the assets that we have discovered?
I think that's a work in process. The next thing we're gonna work on are the fixed assets. And when I come here next year, I'll have a different software program for that makes it much easier to analyze for what you have.
Do we have a depreciation schedule?
Yes, and that's a listing of the fixed assets with the depreciation, the accumulated depreciation, putting to the net. And I think that's something that, I think we should look at it and see if, some of those assets are still there.
And they're properly
what they are.
assessed?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I think overall, from my reading of this, the port is going in the right direction.
Oh, yes.
Based upon the economy, I think we're doing a really good job maintaining not just status quo, but we're actually moving forward, as I said. So I'm really pleased. And again, thank you for your good work.
Yeah, and as I say, I think things will get better. I mean, by this time next year, we'll only have that one fund. One of the difficult things was separating out those 3 funds. And when you're working with a program like QuickBooks for your general ledger, it's not fund accounting software. And when I came here last year, it occurred to me, you don't need those 3 funds. There's no mandate to have 3 funds. And there are other ways of tagging out your fund balances for future use. So this simplifies the accounting in the office a great deal, not having to try to keep up with 3 funds. so that Dina can concentrate on things like Hercules, on things like collections, you know. There are other more important things to do than try to maintain 3 funds that you don't need.
I think simplification is the best way.
Simplification,
Yes,
yes.
definitely. That's all I
We
have.
thank you. You've done a good job, and we feel reassured now that we've read your report.
We need to make a motion to accept the audit.
I so move that we accept the audit report fiscal year 2011, 2012 as prepared by Mr. Trotter's firm.
I'll second it. I do have a question also. Now that we've spent the investment carrying the debt for the transient dock and about to carry the continuing debt for the commercial wharf, that asset now will have a greater value. So next year, that should show up as a benefit to us, right?
Yes. I mean, it'll show up as an asset.
Right.
Capital asset that will be
Capital asset.
depreciated over time.
Right. But it's gonna look good in the beginning.
How do we determine that life expectancy of that particular asset?
30 years.
Is it 30 years?
Well, actually, I think I have here in my notes,
I could be wrong.
Gonna find
I
out.
think you have a policy that, let's see, where did I put that?
If it has something to do with reasonable life expectancy.
Yeah. There are a lot of different, let's see what it says here. Estimated useful lives of 10 to 20 years for buildings and improvements, 5 to 10 years for equipment, and 20 years for parking lot and RV roof improvements.
I
Okay.
didn't hear of commercial wharf and docks.
Buildings and improvements is what it's,
Okay.
but
But at least it's 20.
it's up to you to decide. I mean, as long as it's reasonable, I mean,
We can
you
decide on the
can
depreciation
slice
schedule
and
for
dice this
anything we want.
however you
Right.
want.
Well, what's the advantage of an accelerated depreciation versus a lesser depreciation schedule for a non-taxable entity?
None.
So
Okay,
there's really no advantage.
In
Now,
fact,
in private,
Leasing.
It's just for our own information, basically, on a projected life, I would guess.
yeah.
And leasing for borrowing for entities to borrow against it based on the life of the property, there's always an
so we
advantage.
basically can increase our capital net worth by depreciating it over a longer period of time.
Yes.
It gives us a
Than
better
rather
ratio.
than an accelerated one, yes.
And you improve your net income.
Right.
If you're doing a tax return, you want to do accelerated depreciation, and that's allowed under IRS rules. But the IRS schedules are different from GAAP
This agency.
schedules.
Mhm.
And a corporation, a business of any size, will usually have 2 schedules. They'll have their depreciation schedule usually on a straight line
Mhm.
for a longer period, and then they'll have their tax schedule. And in the balance sheet, you'll have a deferred tax
Right.
amount
Mhm.
to estimate the amount that they're saving on doing the accelerated, because ultimately, the asset is going to be fully depreciated. The tax price of the tax benefits are gonna come to an end,
Mhm. Mhm.
So you generally make a balance sheet adjustment to reflect that difference. And it
Right.
can either be an asset or a liability, depending on what you've got.
So I think Joshua brings up a good point. Should we have a discussion about how we depreciate the wharf and dock improvements?
You could. Again, that's a management decision.
So-
It's not mine.
so-
Yeah.
And maybe the dock does have a life of 40 years,
That's right.
Probably
30
not.
years.
The size
30 closer.
There's a lot of salt water out there just eating away.
If you feel the ground shake, you check your watch, that's an appreciation.
The new tsunami map came out today.
Yeah, I heard that.
So did
Do you
we,
have anything
30, I'm
else?
telling you.
No, that's all I can think
Any other
of.
questions?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I'm reading this and not that.
Yeah.
This is what's behind that.
Good.
Good.
very,
Hopefully, we won't need to consult it in the
I
near
could
future.
tell you my tale of woe about how the requirements for documentation
I
have
can see,
increased over the years, but.
Well, there is one other thing about the new government standards where we have to identify all of our potential liabilities with respect to environmental hazards. I mean, all the way throughout the entire organization, we have to put aside a certain amount of mitigation fund. Are we to that point in this organization?
I don't think we're quite there yet.
I know the county, we had a major issue with that. We had to identify every possible source of liability and then account for that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes, it was it
But
has to do with, what's that law that was passed? I forget the name, but it just really put a huge onerous mission on us to try to identify every possible liability and then account for that in the books. Sarbanes-Oxley Act.
Sarbanes-Oxley, that applies to
To-
for-profit
But
listed
but it also
corporations.
applies to government organizations now with respect to accounting for every liability, because a lot of corporations were concealing those liabilities.
I think the way Sarbanes worked was not-for-profits and governmental units could opt to be bound by it. But as far as I can see, it hasn't come through the Government Accounting Standards Board yet.
When I was on the Board of Commissioners, 2008, I believe we had to comply with that. It was a
Well,
huge,
that was probably the choice of Lane County to
Oh,
do
okay.
that.
interesting.
It's not across the board.
Okay.
Although, you know, I mean, we are tasked with searching for unrecorded liabilities, but when you get that far out, I think it exceeds the normal accounting guidelines. But if you want to adopt a stricter interpretation, again, that's a management decision. And I know my son is in the finance department at Oregon Health and Sciences, and Oregon Health and Sciences, about 5 years ago, adopted voluntarily the Sarbanes-Oxley standards. So, you know,
That's about the right time.
As
It
the university
depends.
did 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago at the same.
Yeah. So it's in the time frame, so we can adopt it or not.
They're dealing with a lot bigger numbers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a lot bigger liabilities.
And they
And then
probably
I
have money
think
to back
you
it up
guys
anyway,
have
we
to
don't, so.
sign off
They
on
don't have
another
now.
You guys
assurance
student
letter to be
loans, come
bound
on.
in with the audit
That's right.
that you have looked at it and you say, this is the good stuff.
And you can be held liable for it yourself.
Yes, you can be held personally liable. So, I mean, it's a slippery slope.
Yes, it is.
So far, we just have this management discussion and analysis, which is kind of general, you know, it's not binding. But that's about all for now. I think the only real accounting change on the horizon for next year affects the way we format our auditor's opinion. We'll have to have headings.
More ink.
More ink, exactly.
All right,
Oh, thank you
Okay.
so much, really,
There's a
thank
motion
you.
on the
Thank you.
table.
we have a motion on the table.
This motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank-
making the trip out.
Thank you.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, we appreciate all your help with that.
It was a little painful, but it was very satisfying nonetheless.
Next time,
You can
Yeah.
tell.
video
Yeah.
conference,
Oh,
you
we
can
can see it.
teleconference.
His painful part was with the owner of Hercules. So.
Yes.
Ah, that's,
Hercules took a lot of messing around with to try to figure out how the numbers flowed. And then we had to go back and fix 2010,
Ten.
and then we had to fix the present year.
10 and 11, or just 11? Was it-
It's
Well,
it's up to date
It's up
now.
to date.
Basically, since we were dealing with 11-12, we had to fix the beginning balance for 11-12, which would be the same thing as the end of 2010.
Gotcha.
And we finally got that, and then there was just a lot of scurrying around balancing those three funds, and that's gonna go away with the new single fund budget. And it'll make the statement's a little clearer on things.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks
Okay.
again, Bill.
Drive careful, sir.
Oh, I'm just
Stay in the
going.
night.
Spend the night, support the
I'm not gonna
economy.
drive back on that road tonight.
Okay,
There are too
good.
many crazy
Waterfront
traffic.
Depot, ICM, Spice, all good places to go to.
Mo's.
Mo's.
Okay.
No, well,
Ciao.
okay.
Tell them we sent you, if you go to Mo's.
Okay. Under old business.
Well, we still have financials,
You have
Oh, we
the
did.
ratify
the
those.
ratified bills.
Okay.
Or not.
I'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to reserve comment to approve the bills paid, $265,278.99.
Second.
Thank you very much, Dina, you're doing a great job. With respect to the check detail, I've asked if it would be possible to put the biggest amount first in descending order, so that it's easier for me to keep track of. Can you do that? So that the biggest check amounts are at the top, and then it goes
Instead of
down.
numerically,
Just to
you
sort
want
it?
Yeah,
To-
yeah.
Okay,
Oh, in a
I'll see
different
if I
sort.
can.
Yeah, sort with the largest expenditures first, which we can focus on versus having to go through all of this and,
We only got
well, I know.
3
but-
pages.
But it just would be nice. The other thing that, I'm not sure how the other board members feel, but the First National Bank credit card payment, $8,029.59, I'd like to see a detail of that once in a while.
I have it right here. Since Joshua
Funny,
asked
you
for it
should
last
ask.
time.
Funny, I should ask. But perhaps you might include that
Thank
in
you for
the, acknowledging
acknowledging me.
So you would like to have that,
It's in the minutes.
include that in the
Include
packet.
that.
Yeah, just so
Okay.
we can look at it in advance, just to see how it was spent. So I appreciate that, and that's all the comments I have. Thank you very much.
It's all my trips to Europe.
Yeah. Central Lincoln, Central Lincoln, Central Lincoln.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Now under old business. First item is the revision of the service rates, and as required by law, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the changes we're making to the service rates?
Do we have to open up a public hearing on this, separate?
Yes.
So I think we have to have a public hearing and then close the public
Right.
hearing. I'm not
Oh.
sure.
Okay,
Okay.
Is that true?
That is true.
then we'll open a public hearing
Okay.
Exactly.
at 7:37, whatever. Six.
And then ask.
Does anyone wish to make a comment regarding the changes we're making to the service rates? There being none,
Close.
we will close it.
Yes, there you go.
Opened at 7:33, closed at 7:34.
Very efficient.
Or whatever. I can't see the clock,
I
I've got
just
I
don't
have a
think
glare on
so.
it, I can't see it.
But when you're good, you're good.
Just trying to.
Would it be possible for Mr. Forsythe to explain the nature of the rates before we,
Well, yeah, briefly. I mean,
yeah.
I would prefer to have Ken come up here and talk.
So we're into new business now? There was no other
No,
old
This is the
business? Or are
resolution
we-
zero
We're
two.
still
Oh, we're
We're gonna
still,
discussing the
We're
resolution.
gonna
Okay.
explain the rates. Ken, why don't you come up here since you did the bulk of the work?
well, this is, we're still talking about the service rates, not the commercial rates.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Service rates are in here.
Most of our rates were extremely low compared to most of the other ports. We did raise,
Let me,
well, we didn't raise a whole
Hold
lot. Our after-hours service charges for fuel call-outs we raised. Our emergency pump-out service was raised. Workboat operations. We added our outdoor RV storage.
And what Ken did is he went through and looked at all of the
the highlighted ones.
ports. Do you have your notes for the ports? Oh, okay. Went through and compared our rates to ports of equal size or services rendered, and kept ours less than all of those that he looked at, depending on the size of their port and what they offered in the port for that same type of service. So I think you'd find that all these rates, should you pick up the phone and call different ports, you're going to find are still lowest for, or close to being the lowest for what we have. Is that correct? Or
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but
still
I
way underneath
I
a lot of
assume
the
that
other
we're
ports.
covering all of our costs adequately on these.
Yeah, yeah, and some of the new ones that we added, the gazebo rental for non-campground guests. We do get a few requests a year for that, but the issue is when they want it, and it's typically 4th of July weekend, roadie weekend,
Yeah.
so we've priced it accordingly. Overnight parking in the Noble Street lot was a new addition. Charter and tour boat operators, seafood sellers permit. Port labor we raised just so we could cover costs.
What was it before? Just, could you give me like a before and after so I can see the increase?
On the
As
port
far
labor.
as port
On
labor,
everything you're talking about, just.
port labor was $25 an hour,
Okay.
straight time.
So we went to 40.
Yeah, we went to 40, and that's still low, but it covers most of our costs. The RV storage and the overnight parking we didn't have before.
Right.
Those are new additions. The dock hoist was $10 an hour for loading gear. And then it was $20 an hour for loading product, which doesn't cover even maintenance costs.
most of the previous costs were figured without a burden rate. And so once I added a understanding of the burden rate and what a burden rate was to a hourly wage, it dramatically changed their algorithm to come up with those figures. So
Labor insurance and liability.
and retirement and medical and all that sort of stuff. So
Was trying to.
Do you include admin costs?
well, that's
prorated.
figured in because we have admins doing the process. So yeah, absolutely.
So we're getting close to full cost recovery.
Getting close. I just have not, honestly, with all the things going on, sit down to create that algorithm for them so
Yeah.
that we can get there. But we're getting closer, just like you see here. Some of the other things on there were brand new. Your RV storage just outside wasn't even there. Ken came up with that idea from his different RV magazines and things like that. So we're offering some things that weren't there before. Nobody's taken us up on it except the overnight parking, and that will continue to grow. We're getting a better handle on what those services should be priced out at, I think you'll find as we go.
Did the forklift go up?
No, forklift stayed the
Stayed
same.
the same 50?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's pretty good.
You'll notice the workboat went up, it was $50 an hour, and that includes 2 crew members, which doesn't even cover employee costs.
That's good.
And our after-hours charge for fuel went from $10 call out to 15. Staff is paid for 2 hours when they're called in. So the $15 plus whatever fuel they sell really doesn't even cover their wages or costs for them being here.
And the fuel portion of it, we'll get better into it, because we're gonna end up with when's our fuel inspection? It's coming up for the fuel tanks and things.
Yeah, we're due for an annual fuel
So
system inspection.
after we do that, I'll have a better idea of what that, how to figure that into our full cost recovery on that. So we can actually justify the price of fuel and the labor dealing with that, and how frequently we have to do that inspection. So that'll be thrown in there as too. So you'll see a few of these probably change, over the next year as well.
Good. Yeah, it's always a moving target.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
The only thing I see that we're still not addressing is the public records email requests research.
I have that on my list of things to do. I wasn't able to revise this resolution from last month
Oh, okay.
to that extent.
Okay.
But that is on my list of things to do for the
Okay.
next time.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second on resolution 0123-13B, revising resolution 012109, service rates of the Port of Siuslaw. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you guys for doing the work. It's
Yep.
good.
Oh, I had to find something he could do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got nothing on his plate.
Okay.
Right.
Moving on into new business. We have resolution 02-20-13A, revising resolution 12-1609A, commercial mortgage rates.
You have to open a public hearing.
Yeah. Okay, at 7:40, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on the commercial rates? There being none, we close the hearing.
It's 740.30.
Very, very efficient.
Pointer letter.
I'll move resolution 02-2013A, revising 12-1609A.
Second with discussion, please.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Fleener, you have discussion?
Yes, can you give us a little overview of how you arrived at these numbers?
We did a survey with all of the other ports on the coast. Dina's got almost all of the other ports charge their commercial mortgage customers up to $650 per foot per month, and then that is equivalent to their annual rate. So if you take a 40-foot boat at $650 a month, you're looking at $260 a month for mortgage. And then you multiply that by 12 and you're looking at a substantial mortgage rates. Charleston, for example, a 40-foot vessel is $1,200 a year. Our new rates for a 40-foot vessel are $940. So there's a substantial, we went straight across the board with a 25% increase. We haven't had a rate increase since 2010.
And we're still competitive.
We're still lower than every port in Oregon.
How can we get the word out?
I think it's out.
It is, that's why we get
It was
the,
called.
that's why we get some of the boats that we have in the marina that we don't particularly want, is because our rates are so low. One way to discourage that is we got rid of the quarterly and semi-annual rates, which we get very few requests for. We decided to go daily, monthly, and annual, and then on the annual rates, they'll have an option of getting into a payment agreement to make 3 equal payments to come up with that annual rate. We've discussed,
That's after the first year?
they can get what would happen, effective the 1st of July, all of our annual mortgage rates would come due the 1st of July. If they came in October and wanted an annual rate, we would prorate October to July 1st, and then the 1st of July, their annual rates would start.
I see.
Would we receive the entire payment? Or is it going to be in 3 installments?
They have the option of either they can pay the whole thing up front, or they can enter into a payment agreement with 3 equal payments.
So we do have a signed written paper agreement that they're
Yes, we
committing
do.
to 1 year. Okay.
All of our mortgage contracts are only good for 1 year. They're stated right in the contract, they're good for 365 days. We went all the way up to 90-plus foot because we've had a couple inquiries for larger vessels. And we didn't have a rate for them. So we increased those also.
Good work. And we also have, don't we have those rates posted on our website?
Yes, we do.
So, I mean, if anybody, there it is,
Yeah.
they want to compare. Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I have just a brief question. Given that fishing is a seasonal business, are there, when you offer an opportunity to pay in thirds, is there a certain amount of loss or people that don't pay or people we have to spend staff time to go after, or are there any, is that a big issue?
Not typically.
Good.
We've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 4 in the marina right now that have entered into payment agreements, and we haven't had issues with any of them.
And one of the reasons that we decided to go into an annual, it makes it simpler to deal with. Then we chose to go to a fiscal year that way because the fishermen will typically have more money in July than they will in January. And so that's why we went to a July start date, hoping that that'll help them out in their annual mortgage should they should something come up that way. So I think we'll find that that's a little,
Do you require a credit card on deposit?
They can pay cash, check, or credit card.
and a lot of them that I've seen put the cash down, so.
Very good.
And they'll notice too, you know, if they wanna stay on the annual rate and pay by the month, they're gonna pay substantially more by the month than they are if they enter into
Oh.
it, into the payment agreement.
That's good.
Very good.
Okay,
No further discussion.
no further discussion? Got a motion on there, right?
Yes.
And a second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ken, and I'd like to
Thanks.
thank Ken for
Thank
doing
you.
the
Yeah,
work that he
good work.
did. That took quite a few months of research, and he's done an excellent job in his new position.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Ken. Good job.
Next item is Resolution 2/2013B, authorizing a special district security grant and appropriating funds. Bob, you wanna,
Oh, here we go.
that was for the security cameras?
Yes, we have,
Do we have extra copies of this, Tina?
Yeah, there should be a copy in everybody's
Okay.
packet.
I asked for a little bit more clarity as to where these numbers were coming from, because on the resolution it was a little bit confusing. But if you actually take a look at the spreadsheet here, the red numbers show how this all adds up to the final number on the back. So
Okay.
it makes sense to me.
Good.
Otherwise, the resolution was, where were these numbers coming from?
and the cameras, the security cameras will take us and give us full vision of everything from 080 building to all the slips, to all of the buildings. It will give us a real total vision. How many?
And 5 more cameras.
5 more cameras.
For a total of?
8. And we're able to view them all from our admin screens. All of us are linked to it, so everybody in the office can at any point in time pull up all 8 of those cameras.
And for the sake of security, we're not gonna mention how long the information is stored on the DVD servers in the back room.
Off-site also.
And
That we'd have to
Duplicate
ask the
offsite.
12-year-old kids that come in anyway, so.
just know that
It's
they're
nice
on
SDA
all the
all
time.
It's great SDA offers these grants,
Yep.
we also are a recipient of
Yeah,
one, so.
And we're working on, starting already working on another one so that we can start with the same cameras down in the commercial and recreational basins so that we can cover that area as well. So
Good.
we'll
Like-
continue that process.
I'd like to move approval of resolution number 02/2013B, authorizing SDO security grant and appropriating funds, $2,800.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I will throw in one piece of information, ever since they put the cameras out at Miller Park that the police have, that rotate and cover the area, it has helped tremendously in cutting down on vandalism.
Good.
Just the fact that they know that they're there
Yeah,
alone, so.
great.
That's the idea of Cam.
Same thing we did, we have them in all our fire
Are we
stations.
gonna put up signs out here? Do we have signs up?
We have signs that
Under
go up with the
surveillance.
camera. Yeah, absolutely.
24/7 surveillance.
With voice recognition, with face recognition
Yeah,
software.
that's right.
Next item under new business, resolution 02/2013C, declaring surplus property in the port.
We have a requirement that any time that we have surplus property of a specific, or a value greater than, I believe it's $1,500, or that we need to have the board declare it to be, officially declare it to be surplus. As you remember, a while back, we had Richard, what's Richard's last name?
Dryling.
Drake. Did some excellent work.
The intern.
Yes, the intern that we had
Mhm.
to discover all of the properties that we had, and some of them as small as .01, some as large as our 38 acres. So what this list is our first blush of those things that staff believes that we can go ahead and sell, trade, give away, what have you. You notice that there's a .3, a .01, a .09. these are little parcels or little pieces that have either been left to us or the leftover of when surveys were done and there's a little corner of a building or something, or a property left. Like right out here in front of 080 building, there's one little lot that happens to take, is that a lift station out there?
Yeah.
That sits on there, so, or sits next to it. So these are properties that we feel that we can either sell, give away, or trade. We have one property right now that is pending that we have a buyer for, but we need to call it surplus property before we can turn around and officially address that person that would like to buy that property. Because officially, until we call it surplus, we really can't sell it. Same thing with the 38.79 acres. We all know it's for sale, but we've never declared it as surplus, so we can't sell it, even though we purchased it to sell. Until we go through this process, we really couldn't sell it or accept an offer on it.
And a lot of these little pieces aren't really pretty pieces either.
No,
There's
no.
like this Miller's Acre, these are some odd little odds and ends over by the highway, over by
And
Saxon.
Sexton's place. over
and,
there.
and looking for people that border it is,
Yeah,
you know, is
yeah, that's the.
here, you know,
highest
would you
value.
like to finish
Yeah,
off the
that's where you
corner of
wanna
your
go.
property and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what these are. I have, what I didn't want to do is we could have filled up your books today with all the property descriptions and everything that we
We don't
have
need
on these.
Yeah.
That's
But I didn't
yours.
think you really needed them. If you would like to individually take a look at them, we've got them on our desk. So that's what we're asking,
Yeah,
staff is asking for is.
Commend you and staff for putting this together, because these have been floating around for years, and
It's-
we've never had them on one piece of paper before.
And we've had an awful lot of help with Gene Wabi.
Bobby,
Has gone out of his way to stomp through a lot of brush and a lot of muck and mire to actually stake and make sure that all of these exist exactly where they do. And I'm not sure, but he has sent us a bill every now and then, but it's been pretty small. I can't believe that we've actually paid him what he's valued at.
How can we publicly acknowledge his contribution, other than right now, thank you,
He may
Mr.
not
Wilson?
want you to do that.
Well, that's true too. He's that type, so he may really not want to. But,
You just did, though.
Yes, and Richard, we just have recently hired him, and I'll tell you about that in my report stuff. We've hired him back again. What a great young man. He did a marvelous job on this,
Very good.
and some of these others that you'll see later on as we get to. This is our first steps of doing these. There's some other ones that we have to still untangle up in Mapleton and things like that, but he did a great job.
Good start.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I have a question, just,
Sure.
it seems obvious, as what John just mentioned, that the idea is to either package it together and try to sell it to a neighboring property, obviously the benefit who would benefit, or in our turn, or in some cases, maybe it's, should we be making it part of a bigger property that we have, like if it's in front of the blue building, should it be part of the tax lot for the blue
Exactly.
building? Because obviously you don't want someone interfering with whatever happens with the blue building in the future. So
And
there's
as
gotta be
these are-
some analysis.
There will be, and as these are surplus properties and have certain values, staff will come back to you with, before any of these transactions could possibly happen, you have to see them anyway and see what that plan is. None of this is gonna happen without
Yep.
everybody
Discussion.
seeing it. This is just that
Everybody on
first
the
step
same
in
page.
doing so.
Yep.
Just,
I move approval of Resolution 02-2013C, a resolution to declare surplus property for the Port of Siuslaw.
one second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor declare by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, this is kind of a housekeeping thing. Historically, we've had a succession of the chairs through longevity, if you will, to the various president, vice president, positions on the board. Everybody else in the universe seems to elect their presidents. I mean, all the special districts basically, what brought it up is we talked about this a couple of years ago, and Bob recently went to a special districts seminar, if you will, and it became apparent we were the Lone Ranger. I know at the fire board, those are elected.
And it
Congress is
really-
elected,
City-
you know, everybody elects.
Yeah, continuity of the issues before the board works better when you have the same president.
And so, anyway, we're proposing that we change this so that the president is elected by the board.
And the other offices as well? Vice president, treasurer, secretary?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Usually those are everybody, I mean, you only got 5 guys, somebody's gotta fill the slots.
Right.
You know, so it kinda
And
takes
it
care of
usually
itself.
does stay safe.
Central Lincoln PUD has a rotation. They've had it for dozens and dozens of years. The Port of Siuslaw has had a rotation for dozens and dozens of years. I don't see any need to make a change, particularly now when we're just months away from a major election where there are 4 seats that are being contested. I think that this type of a major change should wait until the next board. At that time, we can make that change
I
if the board
don't know
agrees.
why.
Yeah, I don't know, we've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and what sort of brought it up was your discussions with your other people, and I think.
And we're
you know, we
not
should
Central
go ahead and
Lincoln,
get it
we're
done.
Port of Siuslaw, and we're the only port that does this.
The other thing, I will say that there are some people that are good at the position and some people that are not. And I think it's a process where the group should select who they think should lead
And leave them there.
and lead them well.
Yeah.
And sometimes appointing them, how many years have I been on this thing now? 10 years
10.
maybe? I've found that we have had willing bodies, but they weren't good presidents.
Yeah.
And it's not a negative, it's just that they didn't
They
have
don't
the
have the-
training, they
and the
didn't have the
time.
understanding, and they didn't have the time.
Well,
And-
there are
and-
some political overlays to this type of a situation where the majority of the board will always have its president. The minority commissioners will never rotate into the presidency. Therefore, the district is going to have less representation as a result. My feeling is that, again, this is a major departure from what has happened in the past decade or more. We have a major election coming forward, and I think that the new board should be allowed to make this decision versus us casting it in stone prior to this election.
And the same fact is true in reverse. The new board can change the policy if they care to.
Mhm.
We're just operating out of our experience and basically following what is sort of the trend of today. I think this policy
I like
is-
it. I'll move resolution 02-2013D.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, I'll be voting against this motion because I don't think that this is appropriate time for us to be making such major changes, particularly in light of the election coming up. And I think that we need to step back a little bit. We don't necessarily have to do like everyone else does. I don't think that that's necessary as part of our good governance here, that every other port is doing it. That does not necessarily mean we need to do it.
No, you're right, but you have a no vote, so.
It's, I can argue both sides of this, and I've lived the experience. I'm really sharing with you that I think this is gonna benefit the port.
I would feel more comfortable if we were to amend this to where we would have a supermajority vote.
No. That's exactly what you don't want. That's where things get gridlocked. That's what happens in our Congress and that's the stuff you don't wanna bring into the equation.
We
We're
got a
4 to
motion.
5.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I would
Are we in
either vote for it or
discussion?
not.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ben,
we're in
this-
discussion.
Because listening to this, some people who are very, very good commissioners don't want to be president. They don't want to rotate
Yeah.
into this. They do so because that's the way we do things. That's probably first. The second thing is the next group of commissioners, the next board will have how many new,
We don't know.
No, we don't know, there's gonna
Well-
be four seats up.
okay, so why should they create, they have no experience that you have
That's a good point.
to say how this thing works and works well. So, I would think that this is a good thing for the commission.
That's a good point. They're gonna have to get their feet wet.
Call for the question.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item, appoint commission position number 2, to fill out the remainder of the term of Joshua. And does anyone have any recommendations for
Well,
that?
we had John
Murphy.
John Murphy run last time and showed interest in it. I think John Murphy would make a good interim.
And I spoke with him, and he's been on the budget committee with the city. He works with the city in many ways. He understands the process and the policies and what we're dealing with. I think that he's willing.
I think he was also on the school board, wasn't he? Or-
I think he was on the school board.
Yeah.
I don't think he is anymore.
No, he isn't, but I
Yeah.
think he had that experience.
But he's been a member of the community for many years, and he just took over Coast Insurance now, full-time. I mean, he's a good guy, and if he wants to do it, I would welcome it. I mean, I would recommend it, I should say. I would
Okay.
really recommend it. And I'm glad that someone of his knowledge wants to do this.
Boy, he's got a lot of background.
He does, he does.
So is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of John Murphy wanting to replace me as commissioner. I'm not sure if I can make that motion,
Yeah, you
actually.
can.
Well, you can, you're
Yep,
a
you're
with
a
a
sitting
sitting
member.
board
Okay.
member.
Just to make sure I got my ethics right.
Do you
So,
have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
How was this initiated? Did Mr. Murphy come to you, or did you go to Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Murphy actually came to me and told me that he was interested. Went to John, told him he was interested. I mean, as I understand it, he expressed interest in doing this, and I browbeat him, basically. I told him I thought he was crazy. Only because he has a lot on his plate with the business and running the business and doing the work he does with the city, but
He likes this type of
he
stuff.
likes it.
Yeah.
He likes it, and he's good at it. And
Well,
I mean, just so you understand, I came up with David Jackson. So there is a friendly understanding that John, following David's, what's the word I want to use? Training, if you will, mentoring. David Jackson, who was his boss, who started Coast Insurance, was one of my mentors and was a port manager before I became a port manager. So there is a certain continuity there that I respect and I enjoy and I like that and I think it's good. And so the fact that he's shown interest in that way, I felt made perfect sense to me and it was natural. So,
Well, John Murphy is a nice guy, good guy, smart guy, qualified. All I'm questioning is the process by which we're doing this. It was not, in my opinion, publicized, recruited, interviewed. I think that this is something that needs to be more deliberate than just someone goes out and says, hey, do you want to serve in this capacity? And they say, oh yeah, sure, why not? I think that's a little bit reckless.
reckless?
Yes, because we're not giving the public an opportunity to step up and say there are other people out there who are just as interested. We should take some time to advertise and recruit and make sure that we've got the best and brightest of the citizens in the district, although Mr. Murphy is probably right up there. But I'm just discussing the process that we're doing this.
Oh, I can say, I mean, in my own experience, I was approached, I was on one of the committees, budget committee or something for the port. I was approached to do it and signed on, and Bob, you stepped in because of your past experience.
Well, I took Frank's.
Frank Casaz's.
I came in for
Right.
the rest of his term,
Right,
and then ran,
yeah,
and was voted in. Yeah.
and then stepped back, but then came in to fill in the position at our request. So I don't think, I think we have
I was
a
approached.
history.
I was approached by Lynette when she was and wanted to step down. I mean, there's a process that's within our bylaws that we're allowed to do that. Once it goes to the public and they wanna run for office, that they're on their own, that's totally.
And it's mandated by law that you have to run at the next available election.
But our policies don't necessarily say that we have to put it out to the public in that way that you're recommending.
I understand
Not to
that.
say that it's not known, it's been public knowledge
Mhm.
that I was stepping down for many months now.
Mhm.
And if anybody was really serious, they could walk through that door anytime. No one would stop them from
Well, you made a
presenting
plea,
themselves.
what was it, last meeting or the meeting before? You made a direct invitation.
Did Mr. Murphy indicate that he would be willing to run for election if he was successfully appointed tonight?
I honestly
I
haven't
haven't talked
had
to
that
him
discussion
about
with him,
that
but
at all.
I would assume so, because he knows it's coming up. Actually, is my position the only one that's not up? I think I'm,
This is Bill's, the
Right.
only one that's not up.
oh, okay.
So
Okay,
Bill's here
we
when
have
the
a-
rest of you leave.
That's it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of appointing Mr. Murphy?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No,
Opposed?
no with discussion. I'm not saying no because of Mr. Murphy's qualifications or motivation. I'm just concerned about the process by which we're filling the
I
position.
understand that too.
So
I
just to make
understand,
it.
but this is not the time to change the process. You wanna change the process, you know the process to change the process. We've been trying to change process, you and I, for the last 2 years since we've been together,
Yeah.
and none of us have had the time to really do it efficiently.
Mr. Chair, I'm
So-
gonna have to leave. I'm
You're
sick.
ailing?
I'm ailing.
Well, thank
so-
you for your
I felt
attendance
that you weren't
tonight.
all here today.
No, I'm not all So, thank you all.
John, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Good to see you.
And good, thank you
We'll
for
see
all
you
our
again.
mutual combat we've had at this table.
Always been a pleasure.
Take care, John.
Few of those.
Anytime you need me to pull some hose, you know where to call.
Okay, yeah, I got turned out to fit you.
Whose hose are you pulling?
Do we have any other items under new business? There being none, reports, I guess I'll start off, and I want to thank you, Joshua, for your 10 years plus of dedicated service, and we've had a lot of fun. It's been interesting.
It's been a hell of a
Okay,
ride.
It's been a good ride. I think we've gotten a lot done, you know, especially the last few years here, and with the able assistance of our staff, certainly, we've gotten, made some progress.
Yeah,
It's been fun to see it
we,
happen. And we will
I think
give
the
you
point-
accolades in the future. You're guaranteed of that.
And I'll come back and work on the gazebo, I'll do the aerials, I'll help with the pictures and all the other things you want me to come, it's my volunteering, it's always available and I plan to do it.
Well, this is all the stuff you said you were gonna do before and never have gotten around to.
Just
So
like
we're gonna-
changing the policy.
We're gonna call it in now,
That's
you know,
right.
all the pictures and
That's right.
everything.
But see, now that he's on city council, he'll have plenty of time to do those things.
Exactly.
That's right.
Anyway, Joshua,
No
we
problem.
do, it's been a pleasure
Thank
over the years. Anyone else before we get to Bob's? Bob, you wanna bring us
Well-
up to speed on all the things you're doing?
Well, we're getting close to my first year, which is next month. So you guys will have some work to do with me next month. I think, for the most part, we've accomplished an awful lot of those things that I told you in interview we needed to accomplish. One of the things that is most recent is because of some concerned citizens, Scott and Chris, is that?
That's correct.
God, I'm horrible with names. Chris at the cardiovascular, Wheatley is a bicycle advocate.
Oh, yeah.
And he and a couple other folks that are into that industry came over. And so I have told you before that we were looking at creating a hiking and bicycling camp area. And we have done so. We've created that. What that has brought into play is that Ken has taken on and gone out and started looking at the same, as we would with Morage or with RV groups, we started to investigate bicycling groups. We have found 3 specific ones that end in Florence that even the city hasn't told us about, or that the city may not even know about. that these events are happening and that they end here in our town. So we've contacted
Adventure cycling.
Venture Cycling, who puts on a lot of these events, one of which has over 60 riders in it that will end up in Florence. So we've started to contact them, let them know that we have these sites coming available. We've contacted the FEC so that they know that these people are coming. Got the word out to the chamber. So we're looking at this and looking further into this. It could be an industry that we've not taken advantage of in this town yet. So that's happening. The wharf in Water Works has come to an end. I'm sure everybody is tickled to death about that. No more pounding, vibrating, that sort of thing. We could do some more if you like.
No, please.
Are you doing the happy seal?
Yes.
Although it was very tranquil going into Moe's when the vibrating was going on because they still had their wind chimes up,
Ah,
which made a very interesting entrance into the restaurant.
Well, then we level those floors up, you're gonna have to deal
Well, you
with
missed the
those.
tables moving across the restaurant.
Yeah, so that's all done. So now it's all underneath the wharf, adding the I-beams, cross members, that sort of thing. We've pulled pile. We've got a lot of the piles still in the back. We'll be getting rid of. We'll sell it, some of it. We've come up with. We've added length to. How many spots do you think?
9.
We've expanded the sites available to take larger vehicles into 9 of our interior campsites by simply adding sand, removing blocks, that sort of thing. We've removed all of the, I believe, all of the creosote logs that were buried in the blackberries and stuff off at the end of the property. Our guys, when I was here, when we did some of our burns, pushed the stuff off into the blackberries. I had them. We had hired rented a backhoe, and I had them pull all that stuff back up and haul it off in yard debris containers and things, so that the stuff wasn't there. So we've tried to clean up a lot of the areas that out in the back where people had used it for over the decades for burying debris. And as we uncover it, they're not allowed to bury it anymore, and we haul it off and start to clean this area up. I think if you drive in the back there, you'll find that it's a lot cleaner than it has been in many, many years. We've changed an awful lot of the types of vehicles that we'll be bringing in. Most of this we've brought in. I bring up the ice machine again. That's leaving on Thursday. It's being disassembled as we speak. Some of it left today. That will be done. I've continued to debate and argue with National Marine Fisheries on some of the chargers and some of the things that they've asked us to do that I think are overreaching, and we'll get into those conversations. We'll have the opportunity. We have a meeting with Congressman DeFazio when we go back in March that Dina just set up.
Today.
Good, thank you.
The Corps of Engineers and NIMS have contacted me and want to meet. I believe it's like the 13th or 15th of March to come in and talk about these things.
when are you going to Washington?
The first week in March. So,
Saturday.
Funny how it's right after you come back, huh?
Congressman DeFazio has made several phone calls on our behalf, which I think prompted that meeting to happen. At that meeting, we're going to. It will be futile, but I'm going to still make the symbolic gesture
Well, I don't know,
that they
whether that's gonna be futile or not.
that they owe
We're
us
talking
$100,000.
expense that we have no means of recouping.
and I believe was
As a result
draconian.
of the delay.
I think it was draconian in nature.
And the
Pulling of the piles.
remediation, pulling the piles, cutting the hole in the wharf.
$86,000 to pull pile that was not, I don't believe, I think it was draconian in nature, overreaching in their
Oh, yeah.
area.
And they're cedar. They're not even creosote.
Yeah.
And they're impossible. I mean, they're up under the wharf.
Yeah,
I mean,
what was the purpose?
you know,
Yeah.
So
it's just,
we'll be,
and they have never visited the job site, Dory.
correct.
There you go.
Okay?
Uh,
So I mean,
And don't forget to bring up the effect that they had on the transient dock. Because there's a similar situation happened on the
this
transient
goes
dock.
on and on and
I
on.
really
It's
believe
close to
it's,
180K
yeah, I believe it really
in
is.
delayed permits
it's-
and losses.
It's time to have that conversation with the management that they're working with, so that we don't have to have it again, or that somebody else doesn't have to have it again. And we're gonna have it again because we're looking for money right now for the bulkhead. And it's gonna be the
It's
same
gonna be
people, it's gonna
same
still be
thing.
Core,
This
DSL. NIST.
Pure waste. This is
That's right.
nothing but waste.
Yeah, I mean, there's no benefit really to it. You know, while we're talking here, I mean, let me go back just briefly to the, our primitive campground out here for the cyclists and things. You know, one of the big benefits is going to be their proximity to Old Town. Because, I mean, we get 60 cyclists in there, they're gonna wanna go into town for a beverage and a hamburger, where if they're out at Honeyman, they don't, because they don't wanna get back on their bikes, ride back in 5 miles in the dark, go downtown. Here, they can just walk downtown. And we also have the potential for kayaking groups and bird watching groups, and there's a lot. So this
Well,
will
we
be a
have the
good
showers and the laundry and all sorts of things. So it's gonna be, they get charged $5 a head at Honeyman's, we're gonna charge them $8 a head.
Yeah.
And start this program.
But they're the kind of
going.
contender that would use the gazebo if there's a large party of people. It's
Yep.
perfect if you go to Safeway and bring it all back and cook here too.
Just perfect.
Have
So
a
it's-
barbecue.
Yeah, I think we have a potential here of, not, I mean, you're not gonna get rich off of this, but at
No.
the same time, I think it's one of those where we can cover our costs because we've built 12 windbreaks that we're gonna put out there, your idea, windbreaks with cleats and things on it for them to hang stuff on. All of that was built with lumber that we recouped from lumber that was thrown away from the wharf project.
Decking.
So it's all just being reused. A lot of the cleats came off of old projects, correct?
Perfect.
So the hardware going into it is even being reutilized, so.
Primitive materials
Yeah.
and primitive campground.
I don't think,
Compatible.
I don't think we're gonna hit $2,000 of expense on this whole
You guys have done a
project.
great job.
So, trying to do that sort of thing, we're reseeding the entire campgrounds again. So we're just moving forward with all the things that I told you that I thought we could do as we went through, and hopefully we've hit most of the stuff that's in our first year. The biggest thing for me, finishing up this fiscal year, is to still try to get that debt restructured. We're paying a little over $138,000 a year in debt service payment. And by selling some of this property too, we'll be able to reduce that as well. But I think that's our biggest chore right now, to drive that down so that any future big projects will show, a better rate that we can get when we do have to borrow or those grant funds, our portion of the grant. So it's been a pretty wild year.
Strategic business.
My note from Susie. Susie and I are working on the strategic business plan that we've talked about and that we need to have. She's making the first cut of it. Rather than spending, and she is still wagging her finger at me, but I want to do this. I have obviously been involved in doing strategic business plans with the university before. Rather than paying $20,000 again to have one done.
40. I think it was
Yeah.
40.
Was it? We have a really big book that we paid a lot of money for that looks like a template to me. So she and I are going to write it ourselves and see what happens this time around and see if we can't save that money going
Good
forward.
idea. I mean, who knows more about it than you guys do?
So,
And if there's any public input, we
yeah, well,
welcome that.
Well, there is a process you'll have to go through to keep it.
yeah.
But
And
absolutely great
And
idea.
in our, we try to go out and reach, any public comments. I think in these meetings, you guys are always asking for input from the public. So anything that we can do to get public input on what the port should be doing. I bring it up at Chamber, I bring it up at the Old Town groups. So, yeah, we really, we're very, very interested in public opinion and what they think we should be doing or what we could add to it. Our economic development is extremely important, and I think that's, everybody's input is needed on these types of things.
And I just want to say that what we paid consultants to do, we could easily do. Going out, having public meeting at the FEC, doing outreach, listening to what people have to say, compiling all that information and bringing it all back, and then having the commissioners pick it, talking to staff, talking to the fishermen, talk to your constituents. It's not rocket science.
No.
It's really,
That's information you already have generally.
pretty much. And if,
Yep.
so.
So it's been a good year.
When are you planning on doing this? Like, this is after the election, probably, be the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really
If you're
have
not gonna,
time.
it's gotta be
Oh, it's gonna be later.
Yeah.
late 13 or
October,
early
something like that.
14?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fourth quarter.
right. Which is right. You'll have a new group.
Yep.
New energy.
We'll be able to finish it up, and it'll take a bit of reading, I'm sure, on everybody's part on how to do this. So it'll be a good first step, I think, for whatever group ends up in here. One of the things we're in the process of, we have a proposal from a company that would like to rent $14.99 or lease $14.99. We're putting together the lease possibilities and things to bring to you should have it next meeting. So that you can see it, and we'll fill that and bring ourselves in,
Good work.
$14,000 a year that we didn't have before, so.
So the project status list where it says midterm leased 1499 property, that must be a typo where it says leased property.
Well, it's not completed. We found somebody that actually gave us a viable offer, and I think what you'll find is it's it's decent. They're well established, known people, so it's not a huge thing.
Not sitting empty.
That's
Is it
right.
requiring a certain expense to the port to prepare the property for their
Absolutely.
needs?
It's about $2,300.
That's it?
Yeah, because we can do all the work ourselves.
Excellent.
So not bad at all.
It's paying for itself.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
And we'll be, by the time we get to next meeting, you're gonna have some more services issues to talk about, because I'm gonna be bringing up paid parking and some other things, so. We're not done.
What happened to our electric recharging station?
That went away.
I figured that, but
Part of the reason it went away is, lo and behold, they had agreed to all of this, and lo and behold, they said, oh, by the way, we forgot to mention that we need a soil, I forget what they called it, Dina.
Oh, it was some kind of a test that was gonna cost like $6,000.
It was only $6,500, and would you mind paying it?
They wanted us to pay it.
Yes. And I said, no, but you're more than happy to pay it. And they said, well, then we're gonna have to go somewhere else. And I went, well,
That's
see ya.
Mayor
bureaucracy.
Xavier brought this up last week, that apparently it has raised its head again, and they're active, and I gave her a little background.
Okay.
From our point of view, that we thought it was a high and noble cause, but didn't feel like we should
Pay somebody to
pay
have it there.
somebody to take our property, because it was gonna take a couple of parking spaces, and we could go with that, okay, but then.
And they didn't want, and we didn't want them to take the parking spaces they initially wanted, which was like AAA number one
And
location.
in their proposal, by the way, they said, oh, by the way, if we take the 2 parking spaces that are at $14.99, you wouldn't have to pay the $6,500.
Ah.
So I was like, well, I don't have to anyway, but thank you.
So anyway, it's still
Yeah.
floating around.
Thank you
Funny
for
how
the
that works.
suggestion, but
Yeah.
yeah. So again, I think it's something that would be interesting to have around, but I can't see paying somebody for the privilege of having it here.
They had the money for $14.99, they got the money for the parking lot.
Right.
It's all about priorities.
Okay, sir. Well, I think.
Oh,
Anything else?
and Bob, wait a minute, one more thing Bob and I did. Sat down and we talked about all the job descriptions that Bob went through and blue penciled all of them for me. Got all of the basics down, and now I'm going to sit down and compile those all, and before he leaves, we'll make sure we get his stamp on it.
Thank you.
Sure.
He went through the whole stack and will
He
be
can
changing
do
some
it
stuff.
after he leaves, too. You don't
Yeah.
have to have.
Well, he can always,
Like,
yes.
you know,
Well,
it's homework.
that depends on his
Yeah,
wife,
right.
though.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not something you have to be a commissioner to do.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
But he,
We appreciate it.
Sure. No,
Com- Compensated perhaps, but not a.
Volunteer consulting.
Oh,
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
That's a
Very-
License to
very
steal.
appreciated.
Okay.
I have one quick,
Sure.
two quick things. Thank you, Joshua, for all your help for people like me who come in brand new and you've got 8, 10 years experience and et cetera, and you're very giving of yourself with that in your experience. So for me personally, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you and your perspective on all this stuff.
Mhm.
You, Bob mentioned the strategic plan, near my heart. How are we set with, revenue generation with bonds, selling bonds? That was your baby and I'm sold.
We have,
Oversold.
You're not the one we have to sell.
I know, but I'm sold, oversold.
we have to have an application. There has to be a reason for doing that. So we need to have a much bigger vision as to why do we need to raise $2 million
Oh, I see.
in order to,
We don't, are we questioning it? We don't have that?
well, it has to be worked through to the point where a competent accountant can see that the revenue that is going to be generated is going to be sufficient to pay for the bond, which means that we have to have, in concept, a working a process that is going to deliver those results to the accountants who will then sign off on the bond.
The stuff that goes to the accountants are here, all the stuff that precedes that, what do we do?
When we work with management, we give them a direction as to this is what our vision is as a board. If we want to raise the blue buildings, if we want to expand our footprint, I mean, whatever we want to do, we need to have a vision that we can be articulated to a piece of paper that says this is the cost and this is the revenue we're going to generate by having this activity. And then we go to bond counsel, who will then determine whether or not that is financeable.
Okay.
And if I understood that when we had our planning session where this came up, it was all tied to generating revenue.
Yep.
It
So the
has-
conversation was about the recreational marina, the what's it called, the wall, the seawall,
The
the bulkhead, and the RV park.
Mhm.
Yes.
You're taking your three biggest pieces, repairing them, upgrading them, and bringing them into a higher generated revenue.
Yes,
That was the-
bringing more revenue in
Yeah.
to pay for the cost of that bond.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so that's the vision that we
So-
have to articulate.
What's the first step in this? I mean, I heard a whole long process, but
Right.
you're the expert. What, well, you are.
I will defer to your better judgment.
Okay, you told me you were the expert. Where do we begin? What do we do?
I believe that we need to get together, perhaps have a special meeting of the board to
Work session.
determine a work session to talk about projects and visualizing where we like to see the port in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and do this in a manner that is going to be revenue generating.
Okay,
So that's really what I think we need to do, is have a work session and talk about this. We talked about having consultants come in to
RV
take a look at the
consultants.
RV park, which I know that you were not totally in favor of, but that was just one idea.
okay.
At some point, you're gonna have to bring in people. You're gonna have to, there's a certain amount of money you're gonna have to pay people to evaluate the work that needs to be done, the cost of it, because that's all gonna go into your presentation.
Right.
Sure.
Just like writing a grant or going for a bond, it's the same idea. You're gonna have to document what needs to be done, what the cost factor is gonna be, what the return on the investment is gonna be.
Exactly.
It's like anything else.
Exactly.
Way before you get to ROI, there's several months' worth of things that we can do, but it's never gonna happen if we don't start. So
It's true.
if we just start with, well, we have the expertise of, and the backgrounds and that of what this should look like and what we want it to look like, that should be doable.
Mhm, mhm.
At least get a
Prioritize some of
starter.
our,
Well, I'd be happy to offer.
prioritize some of our projects that we're
Okay.
aware of now, actually. Get them
Well,
down on a piece of
okay.
paper.
I'd be, even though this is my last official meeting, I'll be happy to come down here and take pictures of the entire property. I haven't done it in over 3 years. Just photograph everything, all the docks, all the recreational, just so you have new pictures to use for any work that you do.
One thing that plays into this, and I forgot
Thank you,
that-
Joshua, that's
yeah,
great.
That'd be
I'm
great.
putting that in the minutes.
Put it in the minutes.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up so that you could be ready for it next month, as long as you agree, is, Mr. Eldon Nordahl has always been, we've had a relationship with Mr. Nordahl over the years with Spoils 22. Eldon came in about 6 weeks ago, and I had explained to him some time ago to please come in with a plan, rather than just a conversation. And he did. He came in and he has a plan that, while I think in concept looks good, in detail I'm not positive that it would work. But I told him what I would do is come to you guys and say, look, I would like to get Eldon in here, Mr. Nordahl in here for 15 or 20 minutes. I will help him draft the plan and allow him to present that to you of what's involved with it.
15 or 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can bring it, I think we can break it down.
It's our meeting.
Yeah.
We can set it up
Yeah,
however we
but
want.
I would like to
In
suggest
4
that-
parts.
Yeah, 4 parts, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna help him put it together, so I hope that we can get it, do it this way to where you can see his overall vision. And then if it's acceptable, say, okay, let's move the next meeting to some real detail and see if we can't move it on. But I would really, I would like to see him be able to come in and give
Sure.
that presentation, because I think his work so far is, on this particular thing is worth talking about.
Yeah, we would.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at
7:30.
8:33.
8:33.
That was with you, huh?
Challenge here.
I missed you guys.